Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Good morning and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Carol and I'm here with Gretta and the Realm of Beings. Unfortunately, Leigh will not be joining us today, but she is with us in spirit. We are very happy to be here on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. Listeners, thank you for being part of this experience. These conversations will help you to look at your life and your creation of reality, to see what you're creating in your life, how it shows up, and help you to gain perspective on how to shift what you want to create. So welcome. If you're new to this podcast, every week, Gretta gives us a quote that she has received from the Realm of Beings, which we discuss in detail. And later on in the podcast, the Realm will come and they will discuss the quote also. This week, the quote is "The Forgotten Memory. Each one of you has a life's mission, but you have forgotten what it is. Instead, you have consumed yourselves within the illusionary realities which assist you in creating your chosen dramas." Well, I think, Gretta, everyone has always asked, what's my purpose in life? Why am I here? I think that's an ancient question for civilizations throughout the history of the earth. And I think the realm has taught us that we're here to learn lessons and to learn that we are the force and we should unconditionally love ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, when I'm working with people, a lot of people have asked me, I want to know my purpose, my reason for being here. And it entails a lot of which we're going to discuss today. But one thing it says, life's mission. And some people think, well, it's my life's mission. Like, for instance, let's take me. My life's mission is to do this work. Or my life's mission is to be a nurse. Or my life's mission is to be a doctor. They think of all the, high level things, but maybe your mission is to experience being homeless. Those are chosen adventures. But the mission, it says here, each one of you has a life's mission, but you've forgotten it. And that is what happens. We forget who we really are. So the life's mission is to go through these created challenges and dramas and plays, whatever that we call life, to remember. Now the thing is, why did we want to forget it in the first place? But to forget means it gives you an opportunity to fall into the illusions. It gives you an opportunity to evolve. And it gives you the opportunity to create and recognize your divinity. So the mission's purpose, one of them that the realm was always talking about at the end of the podcast, I know, either you or Leigh is always saying that, and that is to love yourself unconditionally. That is the mission. The mission is not to be who you think you're to be, the president or this or that. The mission that throughout all your creation of reality is to love yourself. When you love yourself unconditionally, without conditions, because when we get into the conditions, that is where we start blaming ourselves, we feel guilty, we go through all those illusions to support us not loving ourselves and to support the forgetting. The forgetting, I'm going to say it again. I know, Carol, you're jumping
No,
in.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I can tell. I know you're not, Carol. So, the mission is to love yourself, and at the final transition, portal that you're going to be in, and it will be final when you recognize that you are the force. Until
Right.
you recognize that you are the force and that you've been the force all along, you're going to continue going through what we call transitional portals. But what you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say illusionary realities. And that's something that I know personally, I have to constantly remind myself that whatever I'm experiencing, and I consider it a challenge, that it's not real. It's as real as I'm making it to be real. I'm the one creating it. That's not the true purpose of our life. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. There are some people who claim that they remember past existences or what we've known as bleed throughs from other lateralities. Could you expand on that for the audience?
Okay, you brought up past lives. There can't really be past lives because there is no past.
Right.
See, that whole time orientation is an illusion unto itself. So then you get into, well, what are the Akashic records? What is past life regression? You get into all that stuff. But we created that to support us in the belief that there is a past life, which supports our belief in the existence of time itself. But this time orientation that we have is specifically set up for humans. When you move out of this universe or you just move out of this planet and you start talking about time, individuals are going to look at it and say, well, what is that? Because they're not practicing that.
Right.
Humans practice that. So what happens, the laterality perspective is that think of hallways. Think of going into a building that's got 5 hallways, one right next to the other. That would be laterality. And then as you go down each one of those hallways that are next to each other, they're doors. And then you can, whatever door you go into, that's going to be an experience for you. But when you choose to come here, you've already decided before you are born, before you enter your mother's womb, and before conception, you decide what laterality you want to be in. And the lateralities are hallways. Like I said, think of a hallway with just doors going down the hallway. And that hallway goes into infinitum. It's infinity. So it never stops. Like if I've chosen to go into laterality number 232 to experience this, there's a laterality number 537. There's a laterality 1,965. There's a laterality with the infinity sign. It's going into infinitum because the entity who created this existence is infinite. So therefore, its creations of reality are always in a state of infinity, because it is in infinity. That's why death is that's another illusion and a misnomer, you know. So, but the thing is that how does the laterality work? As you're going down the laterality or down, it's really not down. It's the direction is inward. You're going inner and inner and inner to yourself. So you're understanding more and more about who you are. So I tell people, I said, where we are right now, in fact, with the podcast and everybody that's here, we're in another transitional portal. This is a transitional portal. That's all there is transitional portals. When you're born into a transitional portal because that's where you're going to have your experiences. When you get tired of that transitional portal, then you're going to move to the next one, which you are going to create. See, I said it's interesting that people here in this laterality where I am, people fear death. I said there's no reason to fear death. You've already died probably several times. You just don't remember it. See, that's part of that quote, life's mission. You've forgotten your life's mission. So you've forgotten who you really are. And you see the body that you're in as you, which it isn't. That's why you want to see people. I know I'm deviating from your question, but that's why you always want to see people healthy, because they are healthy. Illness is an illusion to begin with. Death is an illusion to begin with. So life's mission. So that's the laterality. Now, people say, well, somebody will go to a past life regression therapist and they'll say, well, I see you in another lifetime, and let's say you're the Queen of Sheba, or you're King Taotep, or you're Churchill, or you're Julius Caesar, or whatever. It's not so much that you are Julius Caesar or any of those other things that they told you. It's just that you have an energetic connection to that. Like my friend Cynthia told me, she's a medium, and she told me, she says, well, Greta, you've been a monk. I said, oh, really? She said, yes, you've been a monk in a past life. So I know that I have not been a monk in a past life, but I do know that energetically, I am connected to a monk who is in a different laterality. So that's really what that is. And then she turns around and tells me, a friend of mine, that we were monks together. So we were in that laterality practicing Buddhism, and I knew it was Tibetan Buddhism. Then she tells me, she says, well, you're the abbot, or whatever, however they denote the person who's in charge. So she said, that's, she gave me that, so it's not so much that you are those individuals as you are energetically connected, and you're putting an emphasis on it. And how do you know who you're connected to? Like, you might be oriented toward things that, like Buddhism, for instance. I practice Buddhism. I practice Nichiren Shoshu Buddhism, and then I dibbled and dabbled in Zen. So, but why am I oriented toward that? See, there's a reason for your orientation. I'm oriented toward that because I'm connected to a male, human male, who's in another laterality, not my past life, another laterality that is a Tibetan Buddhist monk. And then there's another one in another laterality that's connected to Buddhism, probably Zen, who's the abbot, or the head of the monastery where the monks are. Those are just lateral connections that
And
happen.
just a reminder to the listeners that all of this is going on simultaneously.
Absolutely. I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there is no time. So there is no, okay, this is going to happen and then this is going to happen. No. The time when we were in the wombs with our mothers is still happening. It's still going on. Whatever we bring into the actualization of this reality stays consistently happening. The time, so I was trying to look into how people see time. One person said that he saw it as cyclical. Another person said he saw it as a spiral. It's spiraling. But the thing is not really doing either one of those things. It's everything is in the now. Everything that you actualized here is still present in this nowness, because the nowness is right here. Always. You're always in the now, you know. Yeah,
It's a little challenging, I think, since we are human and we've experienced the illusion of time all our lives. It's sort of hard to get your mind wrapped around the fact that it doesn't exist. And in fact, time as a schedule didn't begin until trains were invented. And the only reason they needed to do that was so that, the trains would be on a schedule so that people could, catch the train at the time that they were expecting it. But the illusion of time existed for millennia, just by the passing of the sun. Everybody felt, okay, that's a day that's gone by. The change phases of the moon, okay, that's a month that's gone by. The Mayan calendar, I always think about like the ancient civilizations that have done such amazing astronomy, the way they built monuments like Stonehenge that take advantage of the solstices and the equinoxes and things that we consider very advanced for those time periods. And I remind people back then they didn't have TV. Looking at the night sky, that was their television. So they were much more in tune with the movement of the planets or where the stars were located. And I think that's how they were able to create those things. But they still looked at things throughout a vision of a time passing. So it's
absolutely.
very challenging to kind of get your mind around that everything is still happening. And
And part of that too that helps with that, and I'm so glad you brought those things up as examples, is just our growing. We
right.
start off as babies, then we get to be one, then we get to be two, and then we get to be teenagers, and we see time. It appears as though time is passing because we are growing in this physical body and maturing, becoming an elder in our cultural frameworks and so forth. So we see that, and it's like, for me right now, I mean, I can see myself as a baby. I can see anybody as a baby, but people don't, unless you have a photograph, even think about seeing yourself as a baby. Because to us, that has passed.
Right, right.
It's not, I'm not a baby. I can't sit here in front of this podcast and you see me as the age that I am now. And then right next to me, to my right, you see me as a baby. And I'm still growing. So when you don't see those things, you say, okay, there's one way. One way. We're going one way. It's linear and we are going forward. See,
Yeah,
that
they call it the arrow of time.
right. And think, what it just dawned on me, Carol, when I was saying we're moving forward. Look at what time did. time gave us other words that we could add to our language, English language, into any language. So there's a movement forward, and then there's a movement back. You see, so time has assisted not only in regulating how we move through this illusion, but has also increased our vocabularies with other words, back, forward. You're going backward. You're not going forward. I've heard people say, I'm going backward, or I want to go back to the way I used to be. When they say that to me, I tell them, I said, no, you don't want to do that. No, trust me. I said, you do not want to go back to the way you used to be. Think of the way you used to be. Now, do you really truly want to go there? I had a woman that said that to me. I said, why would you want to say that? What you've just come out of is experiencing alcoholism. And now you want to say you want to go back to the way you used to be? Because in her mind, she was thinking, okay, this is great. I was better when I was back there than the way I am now. See, some of us think about that. But when you say, I want to go back to the way I used to be, I highly suggest to anybody who has said that, erase that out of your vocabulary. And not only out of your vocabulary, but erase that concept out of your mind. Because
I think the human brain it uses a mechanism to trick us into forgetting, because people constantly always say things used to be better in the past. And if you really focus on that, what was better when they didn't have electricity, when they didn't have indoor plumbing? Like, people who dwell on the past, think about it on a daily basis. Do you really want to go through those same lessons you've already learned? I know I don't. I would definitely not want to go through some of the experiences I've already were challenged with and feel that I've overcome. So you're right in that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't need to do repeats. I mean, sometimes I repeat something anyway, and I have to examine, well, why did I do that? But
Don't we call that a loop?
yeah, we
And it's
certainly
because you're
call
not
it a
really
loop.
learning your lesson.
Well, what comes to me, Carol, is when last year, remember when I had that illness experience, I had COVID, and it was on Halloween.
Yep, and you
The
did it
symptoms
again.
came, I had Halloween. Sure enough, this year, Halloween comes around, and here's Greta got COVID again. I said, my goodness. I had to say, what is it about Halloween and me? There's something about Halloween.
Maybe you don't like pumpkins.
I don't know. One idea I thought about it, I said, maybe it's because on Halloween, my husband, if I'm not doing well, he's got to be the one to distribute the candy when the children
Ah,
the door.
you're
So
shirking
that's
responsibility. There you
yes,
go.
yes. So that's one way of me avoiding it. But I know I had to look at the mental equivalencies of it, and I was
That's
angry
funny.
about something. Yeah, COVID is a sign you're angry about something. And then I had strep throat experience, which meant I didn't, there was something I wanted to say to somebody, and I held back and didn't do that. And what's so ironic that I created to talk to him, but I talked to him after I had the COVID experience and the strep throat experience this time. So I said to myself, now why didn't you create to do that before you went through
First
all of this?
place.
But see, that's the unconscious. You never,
It's
you're
easy
not
to look
aware
at
of it.
things in retrospect. It's hard to see it
Yeah,
at the time that it's actually happening. And
yeah,
that's ironic because everything is happening right now. So
absolutely.
why don't we see it right now? We have those blinders that we need to take off to see the real creation of reality that we're doing right now. I mean, I know there's no such thing as past lives and reincarnation, but I just need to bring up that people who believe in those past life experiences, they always seem to be that they were someone very special and important in a past life, like they were Cleopatra or the Queen of Sheba, like you mentioned, or Julius Caesar. Nobody ever says, "Oh yeah, I remember a past life. I was a slave," and
Right.
or I was,
Yeah.
this lowly merchant, or they don't remember things that are not elegant or elevated. So that alone should teach us that there's no such thing as past lives. If
Yeah,
somebody had to be part of the masses, not everyone could have been the wealthy elite, right?
absolutely. I had one person, she told me, she said, in my past life, I forgot what queen, some queen in Egypt, ancient Egypt. And she said, I was queen so and so. I said, oh, really? And then she said, and her mate was the king. So at that time, she was married to him. But now get this is very interesting. She had to create that understanding for herself so she could justify the fact that at this point in time, she wants to be married to him, but he's married to another woman. So her justification is, I'm also his wife because I was his wife at that time in ancient
Oh,
Egypt.
it's
So
almost like I was his wife first.
right, right, right. And so, so people create these scenarios to support them where they think that they want to be, you know. So,
Right.
and she firmly believed that. I didn't say anything. I just let her go ahead and talk. How was I going to convince her that no, I don't think you were? That's another individual in another laterality, but you're right in this laterality. You're not married to him, he's married to somebody else. I
Well,
just
that's that part of the quote that says creating your chosen dramas. That's exactly
yeah,
what she's doing.
right,
Hey,
right, right.
Greta, we're at that point in the podcast where we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, the realm will be with us to weigh in on this quotation. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. Listeners, thank you for joining us, and please stick with us through this short break. We'll be right back. Thank you, listeners. Welcome back from our short break. For those of you who are familiar with our podcast, we are at that point where the realm of beings will weigh in on the quote they have given Greta. Realm, are you with us?
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
hello and welcome. We're always happy to have you. The quote you shared with Greta this week that we're discussing is, each one of you has a life's mission, but you have forgotten what it is. Instead, you have consumed yourselves within the illusionary realities which assist you in creating your chosen drama. Would you like to expand on that, please?
Absolutely. Dramas are those things that are like having a someone give you a surprise birthday party. That's part of your drama. Having to go to the hospital because you don't feel well, that's part of your drama. Anything that you create in your life that you experience is part of your drama, because your drama is your personal creation of reality. And
Realm, I tend to equate drama with like a challenge, but in your examples just now, that's not necessarily true. You mentioned a surprise birthday party. That would not be a challenge. That would probably be something one would enjoy.
could be, but then it could be a challenge. Each person is different, Carol.
Right.
That surprise birthday party could be very disgruntling to someone who
Hmm.
likes to know everything and does not like to be surprised.
Ah, that's a
Yet
good
they
point.
created to be surprised. Why? Because they have a fear of surprises, because they never that that takes them out of having the control.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that like to control people. They have that, they buy into that illusion because you can't control anybody. The only person you can control is yourself. But they believe that they can control others. So and that's out of fear. Controllers and people who like to save people, that is out of fear. You're fearing it. So when you fear something, fear is a very strong energy. So therefore you get what you fear. So if you're afraid of being surprised, then you can very easily create having a surprised birthday party. Even though at one level you wish you had never had it, but just out of the fear, other people picked up on your fear. They picked up on it and said, let's give Carol a surprise birthday party. There you go. There you
That
go.
makes sense.
Right.
And what you fear is what your unconscious at least is thinking that's what you want. So it will
Absolutely.
attract it to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because who did you ever see anybody stand up and say, okay, I uh, want to have cataracts, or now what you might hear people say is, I want to win the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a millionaire. You're going to hear people say that because that's considered a wonderful illusion. But you're not going to hear somebody say, I want to experience cataracts, or I want to experience an automobile accident. You're not going to hear anybody say that. But it's still there because it's in your unconscious. See, what we must remember is that the unconscious holds everything. And how do you know what it's holding? You're going to know that by way of watching your reality. What are you creating? Who are you bringing close to you? What type of persons do you gravitate toward? You see. So that's the unconscious. What mental equivalencies, are you experiencing? Nobody sits around and asks for a migraine headache, but yet people can experience it. And that's because the mental equivalencies, of course, part of that is stress, although it's at a deeper level than just having a headache, because sometimes people are throwing up, and that's a sign that you want to get rid of something. So the mental equivalencies are there, always available to you to help you understand what your body is going through and why. See, that's what you want. See, that is what you want to create, to remember. And that is, why am I creating this? Why am I bringing the same man into my life, or the same woman into my life? I stay with one person, and then I decide to leave, and I like this other person over here. So then I gravitate toward that person. And as I stay with them, they seem like the person that I just left.
Exactly.
So like you said earlier with Greta, you're looping, so there's so many things, but the drama, all of this is drama. And we are all, one podcast we were on with you where you were talking about twinning, and that you have low vibrational emotions, you have high vibrational emotions. Everybody does. There is no one in this or on this earth, in this laterality, in this reality of the laterality, that only experiences high vibration, because you're doing it as a unit. You're doing it as a unit. So you have the low vibration, you have the high vibration. What you want to learn when you're in the low vibration is to move through it with ease, confidence in self, trusting yourself. Loving yourself unconditionally is a definite thing that you need to have. loving yourself unconditionally, and just moving through the challenge with ease. So that's something you want to remember. We get caught up in the illusions of hate and anger and trepidation and all kinds of stuff. And you do want to stick with ease. I'm moving through this experience with ease. I don't care what the experience is. It could look like the most heinous experience you've ever seen in your life. But I am moving, since I created it, I am moving through it with ease. You were going to
And
say
joy,
something
right?
to it. Yes, ease and joy, peace, love, light. That's how I'm moving through it. I've created it. I've created it to be a challenge for me, but yet I'm also moving through it with ease, peace, and unconditional love of myself.
So Realm, what about when you do recognize, and this is, of course, me speaking from a personal experience, if you do recognize your challenge and you do the exercises that Greta teaches us on how to move through things with ease, with joy, doing the QDRs, affirmations, and you reach a point where you feel like you've conquered that challenge or learned that lesson. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, it pops up again. Like it's strong. It's almost as if your unconscious is stronger than what your conscious wants. And you think you've conquered the lesson, but you haven't.
Absolutely. And your unconscious is going to show you that you haven't, if you pay attention to it.
Yeah, yeah.
See, some people are oblivious to it. They're
Well, those are people
oblivious.
that don't know about creation of reality.
Absolutely. So that means that they'll go into a laterality. They haven't learned that lesson. I mean, they'll go into a portal and transitional portal, and they're going to take that lesson, whatever lessons you have not learned, you take with you.
Mm.
And then you're going to practice it in another transitional portal. And if you still haven't learned it before you've decided to exit, you take it into the next transitional portal. And you're going to keep going until you learn it. And one of the big lessons that everybody's forgotten, as it states in the beginning of this quote, is that each one of us and each thing is the force itself. We're not part of the force, we are the force. And we are all one. There's no separation.
Right.
See,
There was a book that, in fact, I think I still have it on a shelf somewhere. The name of the book is "If Life is a Game, Then These Are the Rules," and it lists 10 rules, and one of those rules is lessons are learned or lessons are repeated until learned, which I think encompasses the fact that you will keep bringing those same lessons with you in each transition if you don't learn them. So it's
see, now
better
the
to.
author of that book meant that you keep learning it here in this transitional portal.
Oh, you don't think she understood about?
No, I don't
Okay.
feel that. So, because the concept of transitional portals, most people don't even understand that. They've never even come into that context with that except through us. So, and we have not been teaching transitional portals until at this time. What people think they're going to die and go to heaven or hell. And then some religions created, what's the middle?
Oh, purgatory.
Purgatory, right? So,
I went to Catholic school. I know all those places.
yeah. So they created, if you're really a quote unquote bad person, you're going to hell. That's the only place you can go. And when you go there, you're not coming out. Purgatory is a place where things are kind of iffy. You're halfway in between going to heaven and going to hell. So there's going to be decision about, do they get where they want to send you? Which one is
It's
going
almost
to
like a waiting
outweigh
room.
the other? Yeah. And then the other part is that I've led such a good life. Notice what we're saying, a good life. I know I'm going to heaven. You see. When none of those things exist, you go into a transitional portal and you're moving from transitional portal to transitional portal. So in reference to her book, it was doing the repeats, what we call loops, right here inside this transitional portal, inside this reality. What we're talking about is that you move from this transitional portal through what people call death. When you die, then you go create your next transitional portal the way you want it to be, and any lessons that you have not learned, they travel with you.
And Realm, is it fair to also say that those three places, heaven, hell, and purgatory, can actually be your next transitional portal if that's what you believe and that's what you create?
Absolutely. Because if you believe in hell, then you can create it. What you can create it how you want it to be. Greta was talking about, she's talked about this book, a gentleman who wrote a
Mhm.
book about so many seconds or minutes in hell. And he
Right.
describes what hell looked like. He said there were burning fires. But see, he didn't, the burning fires, but he didn't want to smell or feel burning. So therefore he added, he said, but the people are not burning. You see, they're not burning up. You see the flames, but they're not burning. Whereas somebody else could have created their rendition of hell where the people are actually burning. But see, he created for it not to burn. He thinks that hell is a real place, and he believes that he actually went there and visited it, and also met the devil. You see. Then there's the other gentleman that they had, it was on a program, and the other gentleman was talking about being in heaven for about 20 minutes. So one gentleman spent the amount of time in hell and the same amount of time the other guy spent in heaven. So what did he say? Heaven seemed very peaceful. Heaven, everybody was walking around in white because some cultures accept white as being angelic and spiritual. There's some cultures that see it as the reverse, but it's according to your cultural framework. But
Right.
they created that conception of it. What we're saying, those are transitional portals, but they created those in their minds because they had not died. They were very much alive in this laterality. So there was their imagination. They could have gone to sleep. You know, we travel and create things in our sleep. So that's what they did. And then they sat down and wrote a book about it. You know, the other gentleman about hell probably scared half the population. And then the other person made, maybe, I am going to heaven. In fact, they say I am heaven. I've I've been a good person. Been a good person. Then they come out and they start talking about people and judging and everything.
I was just going to say, like, good and bad are such uh, incorrect terminology because what's good, first off, you have the comparison. What's good to one person may not be good for someone else. And again, it's going into judgment. We're judging who's good, who's bad, and nobody should judge. And I know I am challenged at times, watching things on the news or watching history events of what are generally regarded as, bad things. And I have to constantly remind myself it's not bad, it's supporting. Someone's creating, someone's supporting. It's create, support, support, create. And
Absolutely.
judgment does not have a role in that.
No, it does not. Well, it does in the sense if you want to judge the person, let's say the person creates somebody to say something terrible to them, like, well, you don't look good in that dress. Okay. So who did that? That was the person created that because that person wanted to hear that they don't look good. because they don't feel within their hearts that they look good to
Right.
themselves. Their physical body is like that. So therefore somebody else will support them by saying, yeah, you really do look bad in that dress. Oh yeah, you're right. You really do need to lose weight. You're fat. Yeah, or you're obese. They create all these words to describe your physical body. But that's all illusionary. And that's because in the beginning of our quote, we talk about that you've forgotten.
Right.
If you were remembering who you truly are, you would never insult anybody. You would never do
Feel
something heinous to
insulted.
somebody. You would never do that. You would never judge.
Right.
All of those
Right.
things would be mute. They happen because we forget who we truly are.
Right.
And there are people that use God. Lately with certain situations that are happening, they say, God did this for me. God did that for me. And I've heard people say, we are the good, the other is the evil. And I find that fascinating because that means that those individuals don't understand about creation of reality, number one. Number two, they don't realize that the force, and they're only talking about God, we're talking about the force. The force is that which created God. Um,
And
so
God is external, He's not internal, and we need to be internal. Everything is within us.
absolutely, absolutely, because the divinity is in us. Us as the force automatically makes us God, automatically makes us each other, you see. So they don't realize when they're fighting and killing each other that they're really fighting and killing themselves.
Right.
See, that's when you get past the illusions and you go into the understanding of what's happening. And then they believe they use God as a rationalization for their behavior. So
Well,
that's another issue too. That'll be on another podcast.
historically, more wars were fought in the name of God than any other reasons, and that's still relevant today.
Absolutely. It's like certain groups, Europeans came into other indigenous cultures and wanted to change them to be a particular religion. If you're not going to embrace the religion that we tell you to embrace, then what would they do? Hang them up and burn them to death,
Right.
cut off their hands, in the name of God.
Everything in the name of God. And it's
Yeah.
so contradictory because, on one hand, God is supposed to be all good and loving, but on the other hand, he's destroying human civilization. So
If you
it's,
look in some of the holy books, the way they are written, some of the holy books let you see he's a fierce God. You will be destroyed by God,
yeah, yeah,
you know. And we are fighting on the side of God. You are fighting on the side of evil. So therefore, we will annihilate you because we are better. We are the good. And you see, that's all illusionary in the first place.
yes,
And the
yes,
universe, the force is not interested in that. It only views things as isness. It is. Because remember that people here on this earth, that's in this laterality, remember the lateralities go into infinity and they're overlaying each other. It's like gumbo. It's all mixed up in there together. When you do gumbo here, you got the okra, you got the chicken, you got the crab, you got the shrimps, you got all that sitting in the same
make
pot.
me hungry.
Yeah, one pot, one pot. We
Yeah,
call it one pot here. Okay, so that all of that, when the force views that, the force does not view one group higher than the other or one group better than the other. It only looks at the illusions and says, oh, look at that. Look at what you created. This is what you've created as me, you see, because we are the force. And the other part that we've forgotten is that through our experiences, the force is experiencing itself, and it is experiencing its own evolution. See, it's hard to think that the force would evolve, but it's evoluting because we are made in its image. So everything is made in its image. I don't care if the physical body doesn't look like that, but everything is in its image. A cockroach is the force. The cockroach doesn't look like human, but it's creating a reality.
For sure.
Every cell inside your body is creating a reality. It is a being. It is the force. Every cell in your body is the force. Everything. COVID is the force. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of times we don't want to admit some of these things, but if you accept one thing, you really should be accepting it all. It's just, again, reminding ourselves. Realm, we're getting close to closing time. Did you want to put in any last words about everyone's life's mission as, laid out in this week's quote?
Well, the life's mission, as we said, is number one, is to love yourselves unconditionally. And that's not being selfish. That's just recognizing your divinity and recognizing that you are the force that creates all of existence. And then it takes you out of wanting to think that you're better than somebody else. I live in a 5-bedroom house, and that person is living in a tent on the street. You are no better than that person. The only thing is that that person has decided what drama he or she wants to deal with as part of their own evolution, which is the evolution of the force. Everything is the force. There's no need for wars of any type. There's no need for genocide of any type. It's just an experience that people have chosen to dramas that they want to put themselves through, but it's not necessary.
Right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us on another podcast of Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. We wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate that holiday. And until we create each other again, have a wonderful week.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with the realm and me, Gretta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multi-dimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.